This is 13 WMAZ Eyewitness News at 5.
Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Lori Johnson. Frank Malloy is getting ready for football Friday night. This week we told you about new legislation, a big push to close a gap in state law that the State Court of Appeals says makes it legal to film up a woman's skirt. State Representative Shaw Blackman of Bon Air helped craft the new amended section of code. This comes after the Court of Appeals tossed an invasion of privacy conviction after a man filmed up a woman's skirt at a Publix in Perry. The amended code would make it specifically illegal to film under or through a person's clothing using a device without them knowing. Blackman says it's the General Assembly's job to fix gaps in the law that the courts find.
Obviously, many of us felt like it would cover this particular incident, but as is their right, they interpreted the statute a certain way, and obviously it's our job as legislators to fix that.
Blackman said he and other sponsors put the bill out early to show it's a priority and to make sure other lawmakers can look it over. Monroe County Commissioner James Ham died in a one-car wreck this afternoon. That's according to County Coroner Joey Proctor. Proctor says the wreck happened just before 1 p.m. on Highway 41 near Woodward Road. He says Ham apparently lost control of his pickup truck, drove off the road and overcorrected. His truck flipped several times. Ham was pronounced dead at the scene from head injuries. Proctor says investigators do not suspect alcohol or drugs played a role. Ham was 55 years old. A man died this morning after being hit by a train in Warner Robins. The police department says the accident happened on the tracks by MLK and Armed Forces Boulevard. That's where they say 20-year-old Demaria Pritchett was struck and killed by a Norfolk Southern train. Neighbors near the tracks say they can't believe something like this could happen so close to their homes.
It's crazy because usually, stuff like this happens elsewhere and you don't really think that much about it, but like when it's this close, it makes you wonder.
Coroner Danny Galpin says investigators are not sure why Pritchett was on the tracks at 2:30 in the morning, and they may never know. The nation's unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in nearly a decade. The rate hasn't been this low since 2007. The United States Labor Department reported the rate has fallen to 4.6% in November, adding around 178,000 jobs last month. Now, we want to give you an idea of what was happening in the U.S. when the rate was this low. The first iPhone was released back in 2007. Beyonce's Irreplaceable was the #1 song on the Billboard charts, and Spider-Man 3 was the top box office film for the year. Britney Spears was the most searched person that year. That's according to Google. Ford recalled 680,000 midsize cars because the seat belts may not hold people in place in case of a crash. Ford says there's a problem that can cause the cables to break. The recall, mainly in North America, covers certain 2013 to 2016 Ford Fusion models, 2013 to 2015 Lincoln MKZs, and 2015 to 2016 Ford Mondeo cars. According to the Associated Press, Ford says it knows of 2 injuries related to the problem so far. The recall is expected to begin on January 16th.
All right, we've had some rain, we had some storms, and then we've seen a break. So we'll have a full look at that coming up a little bit later in the show.
Okay, that sounds good. And of course, it's going to be a really busy weekend, a lot of parades, so we want to do some timing there with it. Okay, thanks
Definitely.
a lot. Gray United Methodist Church in Jones County is holding its annual live nativity scene this weekend, which features over 100 volunteers each night. Chelsea Beinford joins us live from outside the church where they're setting up.
Lori, that's right. This is actually the 14th annual live nativity scene out here at the Gray United Methodist Church. And this is actually a drive-through nativity scene. So if you and your family come out here, you can stay warm in the comfort of your own car. So right now I'm joined by a very devoted church member, Tanner Schultz, who is out here helping set up.
Hope to see everyone.
Thank you very much, Tanner. Now back to you guys live in the studio.
Thanks a lot, Chelsea. The nativity scene runs through tonight and Sunday from 6 until 9. Again, it's free, no tickets required. The Okmulgee National Monument now has a new title. The monument was added to the list of national treasures by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. The nonprofit picks sites of historical significance that might be in danger of being lost for future generations. Other treasures include the Grand Canyon, the National Cathedral, and Music Row in Nashville. Trust Chief Preservation Officer David Brown says this designation will allow the trust to work with supporters to pass the bill that would turn the monument into a National Historic Park.
We can help the Congress, we can help the administration say, yes, we want to get over the line and get this bill passed in 2016. So we've got basically a month to get that done. And then we'll start the work of looking at the larger preserve study. And the National Trust brings a lot of credibility to those efforts.
The monument is the second site in Georgia to be named a national treasure. The other is the Sweet Auburn Historic District in Atlanta. Millennials are choosing to hold off on buying a home in favor of renting. CBS News reports that in 2014, almost 72% of millennials decided to rent, and that many of them want to live in a building with lots of extras like a pool, fitness center, basketball court, and outdoor spaces. As a result of increased demand, the average rent has risen more than 20% in the top 50 housing markets nationwide since 2006. Coming up, fires ravage parts of Tennessee, what one local officer saved, and how residents are reacting to the damage done. And later, two best friends, two sisters, one illness. Find out how these sisters fought against cancer. Welcome back. Devastating wildfires tore through Gatlinburg and damaged or destroyed more than 1,000 buildings and homes. Now, with 13 confirmed deaths and at least 80 people hurt, the search for missing people continues. Officials finally allowed residents inside the city of Gatlinburg today for the first time since evacuations earlier this week. There were 14,000 people who evacuated Gatlinburg on Monday, and they were allowed back for a few hours to look around and assess the damage done by the wildfires. And residents are only being allowed to see the damage. The fire killed more people than any other U.S. wildfire in the last 13 years. And one officer shares his feelings and what he did during the chaos. Brandon Bates with our Cleveland station reports from Gatlinburg.
Hopes the destruction is only temporary.
More residents are expected to be allowed to return to Gatlinburg by next Wednesday. Okay, now taking a look at our weather here locally. We had some rain, a nice break, but more's on the way, right, Matt?
Yes, much needed rain is on the way, not only for us, even for the Gatlinburg area, so that's good news. Here's what we saw today. We had a high temperature of 65 after a low of 34. That rainfall deficit over 14 inches of the year. We'll talk about a good rain event coming up right after the break.
Mr. Matt on the speaking circuit today.
Yeah, one of my favorite things here is actually going to schools and talking about the weather there. And so check this picture out. This is from Sirius Academy Charter School here in Macon. Fourth grade class, amazing group of students.
Good looking group.
Yeah, they are. And they asked so many great questions about weather safety. We talked about tornadoes and how weather satellites work. So thank you, Ms. Stubbs, for sending us or letting me visit. And it was a great time. So thank you so much for that. And hey, if you're a teacher and you're watching and you want me to visit, I'll be more than glad. So just let me know. Send me an email. All right, let's talk about the forecast. We've pretty much seen some clear conditions on Doppler Max HD satellite radar, but notice as we zoom out, yeah, we see some changes. You see the clouds.
Two Central Georgia sisters are raising money for cancer research this weekend in honor of their sister, Becca. Becca was diagnosed with brain cancer 3 days after her sister Laura was diagnosed with breast cancer. Claire Davis sat down with the two to find out more about their journey.
Three sisters with a bond like no other.
The Winter Wonderland benefit is tomorrow from 11 until 2 p.m. at Windsor Academy in Macon. Adults are free with a canned good and donations, and children are $5. Coming up, a homeless veteran had no home, and when he died, he had no family. Find out how a community came together to send him off. A mystery began shortly after the body of a homeless veteran was brought to the coroner in Casper, Wyoming. In the least populated state in the country, Stephen Raymond, a Vietnam veteran, was not known by anyone. The coroner, Connie Jacobson, knew she had to send him off correctly, and the goal was to have about a dozen or so people show up for his funeral, but hundreds of strangers in the community crammed their way into the cemetery's lot. The word of the service even made all the way to California, where his sister caught word of where her brother was after years of no contact. Next Wednesday, December 7th, the Carl Vinson VA Hospital in Dublin hosts a salute to World War II veterans. The event honors both the veterans and their families. One veteran who'll be there, 98-year-old James Fields. He was a machine gunner in World War II. He says he fought in France, Germany, Holland, and Belgium, and lived in foxholes for a whole year.
We lost a lot of good men. We killed a lot of good men. Our job was every day was look for somebody to kill.
Each veteran will receive a service pin, often called the ruptured duck, next Wednesday at the Carl Vinson Medical Center. The event starts at 1. William Robinson is getting his final wish to visit his family. Next week, he'll pack up his bags, load the car, and head home to Birmingham, Alabama to see his grandchildren, whom he hasn't seen in over a year. This is all thanks to the Dream Foundation and the Carl Vinson VA Dublin Hospital, which raised the money for him to go. Earlier this year, after getting a checkup, doctors told him that he had stage 4 cancer in his liver and they had about a year left to live. The 63-year-old Marine veteran says he's looking forward to seeing the smiles on his grandchildren's faces. The Dream Foundation says they've made more than 25,000 dreams come true, and now they can add Robinson to the list. Coming up at 6, you'll hear more about his story. And we're going to have one more final check on your weekend forecast when Eyewitness News at 5 continues.
All right, if you got outdoor plans this weekend, you might.
That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of Eyewitness News at 5. Join us again for Eyewitness News at 6. And remember, the news is always on at 13WMAZ.com.
Yeah, Annie's up next, but first, here's This Is Home, straight from the heart.
Yeah, it's going down. We about to live it up, y'all. From the heart, this is